Mind, body, and soul. There's only a few more slides left. We are going to teach you something very, very fundamental. In fact, if you can pay your attention to this one single slide, you can take it that you have understood today's session. It's a very simple diagram, but it captures all the information. If I ask you, what is intelligence? Or if I ask you, can you point out where your intelligence is? Everyone would say here. If I ask you, tell me which part of your body does the management of planning, executing, logical thinking, everything. Again, we'll do this. If I ask you to point out where do you think you are living, you would say here. Normally you would see, like, you would have seen in movies, a boy would propose to a girl, girl propose to a boy, they would always point at their heart. Now, is that sentimental? No. According to Bhagavad Gita, it is real. We actually reside here only. Even though we may not be able to tear open the heart and see it, intuitively we all know we live here. So that's why if somebody says if I ask you, can you please point at yourself? You won't say here. You won't say, this is me. You will say, this is me. And if you have to express yourself, you would express from here. Somehow intuitively, we all know we seem to be residing somewhere here in the region of our heart. Now, there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita that says that we are actually residing in the heart region only. Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. Krishna says that we live in the region of the heart. Now, taking a step back, this is a famous chariot example. This description of this example, this analogy itself comes from one of the Vedic scriptures. Now, if you study this artwork, some things are quite obvious. Like you see, there are 5 horses here. Each horse represent a sense of seeing. For example, you see the eyes there, sense of smelling, hearing, touching, and tasting. So 5 senses, they are represented by the 5 horses, which is pretty obvious. Nothing else is obvious here, even though we can take a guesswork. So there are 5 horses, which are the senses, and the senses are controlled by, the horses here in this example is controlled by a chariot driver or charioteer. This chariot driver represents the intelligence. Now, how is this chariot driver controlling these senses? Using a rein or a rope. So this intelligence is controlling the senses using these ropes, and that rope denotes the mind. So intelligence uses the mind to control the senses. Very, very simple, but very, very profound thing. Application of this knowledge is unlimited, but take your time. I'm going really, really slow as much as possible. So there are 5 senses here. Each sense is denoted by a horse, and there is a chariot driver, which is the intelligence, who is controlling all these senses. And how is he controlling all these senses? Using a rope, and that rope represents the mind. Now let's come to 2 other aspects of this illustration. There is a chariot that is being driven by this intelligence. That chariot represents our body, physical body. So the chariot is the body, and you see a passenger here seated who is looking a little aghast, worried about something bad that's going to happen. And this passenger of this chariot is the soul. If you understand this particular diagram, you can answer most of the fundamental questions in our lives. So I'll repeat again. Each of the 5 horses, they are the senses. The intelligence controls the senses using the mind. And intelligence is actually driving our body to the next destination. And the body has got a passenger, which is called as the soul. Now, coming to this heading, who are we? Are we this body? Are we this intelligence? Are we this mind? Or are we these senses? Let's go one step at a time. We can't be this body. Why can't we be this body? This is a beautiful diagram. My name is Ganesham Govinda. I was born 43 years ago. And then I was crawling up for some time. I was a toddler. I was a teenager. I went to uni. I'm somewhere there. I'm in middle age now. From this point onwards, maximum I can do damage control only with my body. It will start to dwindle. Slowly it will dwindle. And at one point I'll die. But then, surprise, surprise, I'll be born again, according to Gita. And then the whole cycle continues. You can see again another baby is born, crawling, toddler, just continues. And just goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, coming back to this question, are we this body? I can't be this body. Why can't I be this body? Because I still remember my childhood days. I'm still the same person. At least I feel I'm still the same person, but my body is gone. My soft skin is gone, chubby cheeks is gone, everything gone. Likewise, I still remember the very first day I went to kindergarten. I still remember the very first day alone. I remember the time when I went to high school. I remember when I went to year 12, when I went to uni, when I landed on Australia. I remember everything. And I remember a different phase of life. I used to have a different body. Curly hair, chubby cheeks, was a little stout, lot more short, so on and so forth. But even in this life, I have changed this body quite substantially. I have already quit so many bodies. Even modern science agrees every cell in our body gets born and every cell in our body gets changed once every 7 years. In other words, once every 7 years, we get a brand new body. In other words, let us say we take a census, in Australia, they do census, national census. What's the population? Likewise, if you have to do census of your whole body, find out how many cells are there. And then you make a note. You come back after 7 years, none of the cell will be alive. Every cell, including brain cell, every cell would have died and you would have gotten a brand new body at the end of 7 years. Now, it doesn't work that on one fine day, all the cells die and the next day, everything is born. No, it's a gradual, continuous process. As we speak now, one cell is born, another cell is born, another cell has died. There are trillions of cells. It just keeps on going through this continuous transformation. It is so subtle, we can't observe it. It just happens. Just like sometimes you might have gone to see a sunrise in some beautiful place. You will see sun is about to come. Suddenly you will see it's already out there. It's happening right in front of our eyes, but you can't really pinpoint the time when it is actually rising. Same way, because the change is happening continuously, non-stop. Even when we are asleep, we can't notice it, but it is happening. So the body which I had when I was born, when I was a toddler, when I went to kindergarten, all the body, everything is gone, but I still feel the same person that I am. So with this diagram and understanding, which Krishna beautifully explains here in Bhagavad Gita, we can understand we cannot be the body. It's very logical because our body has already changed. I've already changed to so many, not just me, all of you, each one of us, we have changed this body. You can look at your childhood photos and you can see how much you have changed. So with this, we can fairly conclude we can't be the body. Next potential is, can we be the mind? Or let's say even intelligence. Can we be the intelligence? Again, there are things which you think you made a decision on very intelligently, but then later on someone else comes and educates us. Someone else comes and educates you, and we then realize actually that was a mistake. Now my eyes have opened and now I have understood what the truth is. It can be on anything. You might have made your research to buy whatever car you ended up buying, only to find it's not the best fit for you. Likewise, could be your iPhone, could be a partner, could be a course, could be an apparel that you bought, anything. So your intelligence can be trained. What you used to think based on your intelligence. I remember when I was child, there was no CD player. We used to have a tape recorder. For so many years in my childhood, I used to think somebody is sitting inside and talking. But then as you grow, you study about the transistors, you study about communications, then you realize actually nobody's sitting and talking here. Somebody else is doing from elsewhere. Even when I remember when they introduced to TomTom, I used to think at that time, how is the TomTom working? How can TomTom memorize all the maps? I used to think like that. But then we realized, no, it's actually connected to the satellite, and then wherever you go, it just tracks. So you get everything live. So everything, if you see, there is certain intelligence we are all born with, we are all grow up with, but that intelligence also evolves over a period of time. So what we used to think as truth is no more. Many instances it has evolved. Many instances we have completely changed 180 degrees. Understanding actually that is not correct and this is correct. So in this way we can understand because we have changed drastically. However, we still feel the same person that we are compared to when we were child, to when we were teenager, to wherever you are now. Some of you may still be teenagers. So in this way, we can analyze and understand. We can't be intelligence and can't be mind either. We may have some opinion. Mind, what's the difference between intelligence and mind? Intelligence is more rational. Mind is more emotional and sentimental. Intelligence can be trained. Mind can't be trained. In this example, if you see, mind is almost like a dead matter. The soul can give instructions to the intelligence. Intelligence can be trained how to control the horses. Controlling the horses doesn't mean stopping the horses. Controlling the horses. Remember, there is a chariot here, and the chariot is supposed to go to the destination. A proper intelligent person, what he or she would do is, they would learn the art of controlling these senses using the mind, so they can drive the chariot from a source to a destination. Now, in order for this person to go from point A to B, there are two things which this person is supposed to know or supposed to be trained on. First one is, where is he or she going? First, they need to know where they are going. And second is, what path they are supposed to take to reach the destination. Two things are important. So this intelligence can be trained, as is rightly depicted, as a person here, as a human here, the person can be trained. Now, how can this person be trained? Different ways. The person can hear from someone. The person can go to an authority and learn. Somebody who had already gone the distance, gone the path and reached the place, he can go gain the knowledge from them, he or she. Likewise, the person can actually read a manual to understand how it works, and they can read Gita, they can read some technical book if they are doing, let's say, some surgery. So knowledge can be accrued from any one of these different means, but once the knowledge is accrued by the person can then make some good use of these horses. Because mind you, if we think controlling these horses is so difficult, so let loose these horses. Now, what will you do with the chariot? We cannot move forward. Or we think, controlling this mind is so difficult, it's driving me crazy. So I'm just going to remove these reins and throw away. Fine. Then how are you going to control all the horses? Not possible. So the way how intelligence can't directly deal with the senses. Intelligence needs the power of the mind. But if the mind goes unbridled, that's when the issue comes. So the whole idea of meditation or spirituality is to, first of all, again, as I said, this comes from the Shastras only, this whole depiction. It teaches us, first of all, our own geometry, our own chemistry, our own constitution. Who are we? I'm just a passenger in this body. I'm known as, I cannot be this body because body keeps changing. I cannot be my mind or intelligence because my emotions also change. You know, when two people come together, when the hormones hit the peak, everyone feels, well, you are the missing half of my life. But the same person, people can't stand the sight. You know, if for some reason the relationship goes downhill, what happened to all those emotions? Same person. The person who we love the most, that's the person many times they would actually cause us so much hurt also. So emotions also change. How we feel towards a person, how we feel towards anything for that matter changes. So I can't be my mind either because it keeps changing. I'm not the changing personality because I still feel the same person that I was. My externals keep changing. My subtle feelings also keep changing. But the person that I felt I was when I was in kindergarten, to when I was going to school, to when I was going to uni, to when I came to Australia, to when I start to work in an IT company, I still feel the same person. I can clearly feel that journey. But I can also realize every time I go in front of my mirror, yep, body is getting aged. I'm getting some gray hair here. Voice is changing. Energy level is changing. Emotions is changing. Passion is changing. Everything else changes. But what is me? That unchangeable part is me. And that's what's technically called as soul, or in Sanskrit, it's called Atma. So in this chariot example, that Atma is the passenger. So this intelligence, what are we doing by studying Gita? We simply are training the intelligence, spiritual intelligence, holistic intelligence, not just material intelligence. Somebody may be intelligent, but they may use the intelligence for all wrong purpose. That's not how we want our life to be. We want, first of all, ourselves to be very clean, to have very clear vision, to know where we are going. We also want to be the source of inspiration for others as well. And you don't need to be a proponent of Bhagavad Gita knowledge. No, each one of us, we can lead our family properly. You know, you can be a mother, you can be a father, you can at least lead your family properly. And each one of us, we are leaders in our own league. If nobody is there, somebody says, I'm just a single, I'm just living by myself. No problem, you can lead your life properly. So each one of us, we need to train ourselves. The sooner we train ourselves, the better it is. Otherwise, guess what will happen? The chariot would have gone in a completely different direction, being pulled by the whims of all these senses, and the mind will also go with the senses. Mind always follows the least resistance path. But it's the intelligence using the mind has to control all the senses and say like, no, stay. Even if you move slow, it's fine as long as you go in the proper direction. There's no point in going fast, especially in the wrong direction. So you can go slow. So this is how we understand. Now, before I proceed to the concluding slides, anyone has any questions on this, or is anything unclear for anyone? Any questions on this, or if you understand it, you can show your thumbs up. Because this is very, very important, very fundamental. As I said, if you understand this slide, you have understood the first 6 chapters. If you don't, it'll only add complication to your life. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can put your hand up. If you don't have any questions, whenever I ask if there is any questions, you can show your thumbs up. Either you can push the icon. Where is that icon? The smiley. I can't see it in my screen. But you know which one to push. Yes, Arna is doing it. So that's what you're supposed to do. Okay, let's continue. So here Krishna is giving an example to teach us about this phenomenon. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. In other words, the soul remains as it is. The covering of this soul keeps on changing from boyhood or girlhood to youth to old age. Similarly, the soul will also keep on remaining the same while the body is also getting totally changed, because when the body goes, when it dies and dwindles, the soul is intelligent enough to realize this body is no longer useful to me. So I will be born in the womb of another mother, and then I'll continue the journey. So that's what the soul is doing. So Krishna is saying a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So our bodies keeps on changing, but the soul remains the same. In other words, we are the soul. We can't be something which keeps on changing. Mind keeps changing. Intelligence keeps changing. Body keeps changing. But we don't change. When we ask you, if I ask you, my name is Ganasham, whose head is this? You will say, this is Ganasham's head. Fine. Whose hand? Ganasham's hand. Whose body? You will say Ganasham's body. That means Ganasham is different, body is different. So throw the body out. This is just something which I acquired. Just like how I say this is Ganasham's shirt. Shirt is different, Ganasham is different. Likewise, whose body is this? Ganasham's body, which means Ganasham can't be the body. Throw the body out. Whose intelligence is this? Ganasham's intelligence. Throw the intelligence out. Whose mind is this? Ganasham's mind. Throw it out. Now, who's left now? Ganasham. That's the soul. So the body, the mind, the intelligence, everything belongs to the soul. And we are the soul. So this is how Bhagavad Gita, using this simple analogy, and this illustration was actually drawn based on the description which Krishna has given here. Like this, there are many such illustrations to explain the deep concepts of the shloka. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But this is, if you have to draw this verse, this is how you will draw. This is what Krishna is saying. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body, you see, as the spark from boyhood to youth to old age. Similarly, the same soul passes into another body at death, because the body is useless. Soul actually gets jumped into the other body and it keeps on going. The soul just transmigrates from one body to another. Again, Krishna gives another analogy in the same chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones. Every day we change our clothes. I was giving a class to a group of kids. I told them, I'm a monk. You see this clothes which I'm wearing, this is orange. This is like our uniform, if you like. So I was giving a class to a group of students, youngsters, little kids. We have 10 minutes more. And I told them, our memory power is very weak. You don't even remember what clothes you were wearing yesterday. And the little kids were looking at me. And I said, but I can, not you. Then one kid, intelligent among them, he's like, that is cheating. That is cheating. Little kids, they don't hold anything. They were saying, no, this is cheating. You always wear the same clothes every day. I say, like, yes. But here Krishna is saying, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies. Because at the end of death, the body is no longer, or end of life rather, or at death, the body is no longer useful. So the soul now is looking for greener pasture. Greener pasture means another body, healthy body, young body. So it can enjoy there. So it jumps into another body. Now, what determines which body the soul is going to take? What determines in what family the soul will be born? Stay tuned. Karma and reincarnation. That's the connection between the today's session and next week's session. So Krishna is giving here another example about changing clothes. The body and the mind are material, but the soul is spiritual. Body is material. Material means there is a starting point and there is an ending point. So this whole body, according to the Shastras, they have come from Panchabhuta. They say earth, water, fire, air, ether. Body has a earth element. You see the flesh, that's the earth. Water, it has fluids also, blood and everything. Likewise, fire, body does have fire. How can we understand body have fire? You sense your temperature. You can feel the heat, right? Heat means there is fire. Heat is just the consequence or the effect of fire. We may not be able to see. But if you read Ayurveda, Ayurveda says we all have Jataragni or digestive fire within our body. So there is fire. We can easily feel. Okay, so like that, each one of the different bhuta or elements of this earth is constituted in our body. Now, when we die, our body will be either buried or cremated, and then each one of these aspects go and merge into them. So this is what happens with this body. Body and mind are material. Mind is a more deeper concept. For now, you understand, just like the body is material, mind is also material. I am purposefully treating mind as a black box for now. We'll delve into that more later because there's a lot of information I'm throwing. I'm trying to minimize, simplify as much as possible. So for now, understand it's only the soul is spiritual. Spiritual means there's no death. Soul is eternal. We are eternal. Going back to this picture, we are the spark in here. When we die, the spark moves into another body. See, it goes after that body dies, jumps into another. So the soul never dies. There is no death for us. We are amara or immortal. We are eternal because we are spiritual. So matter is temporary. Spirit here refers to the soul. Soul is eternal. So that is us. Bhagavad Gita gives us the most positive news ever we can hope for in our life. There's no death for us. Death is only for the body. And when we die, we then move to the other one. There is a famous Greek philosopher, I think, by name Socrates. So when he was preaching against the establishment at that point, they imprisoned him and they sentenced him to death. And at that time, they asked him, how do you want to die? Should we hang you to death, or should we stone you to death, or should we poison you to death? Socrates has famously replied, first you catch me, then we'll talk about how to kill me. Socrates knew very well he's not this body. Body they can imprison, they can sentence to death, they can kill, whatever is possible. Soul, which is actually us, nobody can find where we are. Nobody can touch that. Nobody can kill it. Impossible. Now, what's the dimension of the soul? As I said, soul is in the region of the heart. What is our dimension? Again, this is coming from Shastras. It says you take the tip of the hair and you cut it into 10,000 pieces. Tiny, tiny part. There is a shloka that says Balagra Shatabhagasya Satata Kalpitasya cha. So you take the tip of the hair and then you cut it into 10,000 pieces and you take one such piece. That is our dimension. Very, 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 very tiny in this world. Now, do we always remain that tiny? No. When we go back to spiritual world, which is our origin, according to the scriptures, there, that same spark will blow up into a fully blown human being, fully blown, whatever form we originally had. But as of now, as long as we are in this material world, no matter how many species we go, no matter how many bodies we change, no matter how many births we take, how many times we die, the dimension of the soul will always remain the same. A soul is there even in the body of an elephant. A soul is there even in the body of an ant. How do we know whether a soul is existing or not? With two symptoms. One is growth and the other is consciousness. Wherever the symptom of the soul is consciousness. Wherever the soul is present, these two things will be there. There will be growth and there will be consciousness. So I'm living in the living body, soul is there. As long as the soul is there, my body will grow. Nails will grow, hair will grow. Some growth will be there always. Tissues will grow, keep on growing. And there will be consciousness. If somebody beats, I'll feel the pain. Now we can apply this principle if we have to understand. Whereas if I actually die, for example, normally when a person dies, what do we say? Oh, he passed away or she passed away. No, body is there. What has passed away? You see, intuitively, even without us knowing, we talk about soul only. Part of our culture. We say we passed away. What has passed away? Body is still here. But something that was inside the body when the person was living is no longer there. That's why we call the person dead. Dead means no growth, no consciousness. That's what death means. So nails don't grow for a dead body. Likewise, only when the soul is there, these two symptoms are there. Soul is so tiny, 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair we can't see. But how can we know whether a person is living? Based on these two symptoms. Is the person growing? Or nails growing, hair growing? Some form of growth is there. Yes. Is some form of consciousness there? Yes. That means the soul is there. Now you take an elephant. Does an elephant grow? Yeah, there will be growth. Does the elephant have consciousness? Absolutely. And yes. Cows, yes. Chicken, yes. Fish, yes. You name it. Now let's take it to the plants. Do the plants grow? Yes. Do the plants have consciousness? Yes. Jagdish Chandra Bose, you can Google and see, Indian botanist. He proved plants have consciousness also. That's how he got the Nobel Prize. So plants also have got consciousness. So in this way, we can understand even plants also have got life. But to understand whether something has got life or not, whether soul is present there or not, you understand based on these two symptoms. One is growth, second is consciousness. When the soul no longer sees a good potential within this body, the soul quits the body, moves to another body. So as soon as the soul moves out, which we call as the person passing away, then the body just lays down dead. There's no more growth and no more consciousness. Nature of the soul, it has got three qualities. It is eternal, first and foremost quality, very, very important, which means there is no death. Second nature of us is we are knowledgeable. Knowledgeable means we know whatever that needs to be known, we know. Currently, because we are covered with mind, intelligence, with our own conditioning, as after we are born in this world, that knowledge is covered. But by means of spirituality, we extricate the soul out of this so we can experience a higher dimension of life. In that dimension, all knowledge becomes accessible because soul is fully knowledgeable. Likewise, Ananda, soul is always very, very blissful. Currently, we go through ups and downs in our lives. Soul doesn't go through that. So whoever practices spirituality, they can bring out that spiritual nature from within them and experience a higher dimension in life. So they will feel, even in this particular body, even before dying, even as we are, we can be, we can experience that fearlessness of being eternal. We can experience that knowledge, higher level of knowledge, and we can experience that bliss. Spiritual path is supposed to make us happy. That's the idea. The soul always seeks pleasure, but without a proper means to seek that pleasure, soul looks for pleasure different ways. Sometimes it changes job, changes home, changes partners, changes everything, changes phone, changes car. Somehow the soul is actually trying to seek pleasure, newer and newer pleasure, because soul by its nature is very, very happy. By nature, it's always very, very blissful. Now, because now the soul is engaged within this body, it feels suffocated and it is actually pushing this body. Remember, the passenger of the chariot keeps pushing the intelligence. Go here, go to the pub, go there, go, do that, go here. Intelligence gets bewildered, didn't know where to go, just following the order and just going here, there. But if the intelligence is properly trained by the scriptures, then the intelligence know, yes, I am in this world. I have my duty. I have my job. I have my family. I have to earn, and I have to actually take care of my spiritual side also. I have my body. I need to maintain that work-life balance also. So intelligence has to be properly trained. Okay, this is the final slide. Taking care of just the body. Normally, you'll see fitness first, so many other means. People go to gym, people do running, everything they do. Each one of them, if you carefully observe, they are meant to take care of just the body. And just taking care of the body, but ignoring the soul is equivalent to, you look at this old lady, she's starving the bird. Okay, the parrot is about to die, but she's too busy just cleaning the cage. It looks funny, but that's what most of us are doing in life. Soul is inside, we are starving the soul, and we are just taking care of the body. We are eating, sleeping, doing exercise. Everything which people do, you carefully observe, it is simply to meant for the pleasure of the body only, which is just the cage which you are going to quit anyway. But during this whole life, soul will starve, which means you will feel some void. You will always feel something missing in life. Just like there is food for the body, there is food for the soul also. And what is that food? Stay tuned. We'll discuss more about that in the subsequent classes. I'll stop the share. Any questions before we call it a day? Anyone? Comments, questions, agree, disagree?
That was amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Can I ask you some questions now based on whatever we discussed?
Yes.
Okay. Before I forget, let me take a photo so I have the attendance. I always take only at the end of the class, so I know who attended it. Okay. What are the 2 symptoms of the presence of soul? I'm going to call out names here. Should we do it that way? No. Today, first week, we'll keep it voluntary. I don't want to put you in hot seat. Okay. What are the 2 symptoms of the presence of soul? If you know the answer, put your hand up. I'll call out your name. You can answer. Yes, Pranav.
Consciousness.
Consciousness. Leena, what's the second one?
Growth.
Growth. Fantastic. Growth and consciousness. Very good. In the chariot example, what are the horses? Anyone else? Put your hand up. Asta.
Senses.
Senses. Okay, good. Raksha. Who is the driver?
The intelligence.
Intelligence. Very good. Who is the mind? Anyone else? Or what is the mind in the chariot example?
Ropes.
Come on, it's easy.
Ropes is the mind.
The ropes are the mind. Okay. Who is the passenger?
Soul.
Soul. Very good. And what's the chariot?
Physical body.
Physical body. Well done. 10 out of 10. How can we understand that we are not the intelligence?
Because it gets changed.
I don't know who is talking. First, you put your hand up at least physically. Yes. Gems.
Because it gets changed due to the body.
Very good. Because mind and intelligence can change. Even in the same day, we change our opinion. The intelligence can be trained to evolve also differently, to think differently, which means it's changing. It can't be me because I don't change. I still feel the same person. I may be in one country. I was in India before. I was in Nepal. Maybe you can be in any country. And now you can be in a different place. It doesn't matter. But you still feel the same person that you are. Correct? So because we feel the same person that we have always been, that unchanging part is us. So that is the soul. Wow. I'm very impressed with all the answers. Thank you. Somebody has asked a question. Biggie was asking for excuse, unable to turn on the video. That's fine. Anusha, what's your question?
Yeah. So it was related to the pleasure, where we discussed about how soul will urge us to seek pleasure.
Yeah.
But pleasure is mostly associated with the material world, but soul is not.
Good question. Very good question. So Anusha's question is, if we are talking in this material world, normally we associate the word pleasure with all material pleasures. Could be sex pleasure, could be, eating pleasure, could be seeing pleasure, everything to do with each one of the senses. Basically, it's just mainly these 5 gross senses. You may watch movie, you may hear some rock music, you may eat some nice food, sense of touch, you may have some sexual relation with someone, so on and so forth. So these pleasures are to do with the body and they are associated with the material world. Whereas the soul, the person that we are, we don't belong here. The soul belongs to the spiritual world. How can the soul like these pleasures which are associated with material world? The answer is soul is not after these pleasures. Soul's position is more like, let us say, a person falls in love with someone. They have just seen them once. And now impelled by the desire to see the same person, they keep going from one place to the other to see this. No, not this, not this, not this. They'll just keep rejecting them. Not this person, not this person, like that. Soul's position is like that. Soul was originally in the spiritual world enjoying the bliss to the fullest extent. And suddenly when this soul wakes up, we suddenly find ourselves a bit suffocated, bit like, nobody wants to go to work on a Monday morning, correct? Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to grow old. Nobody wants to feel, uncertain about their future. But these are emotions which are thrust upon us, which soul finds very suffocating. So what the soul is pushing is, soul in its quest to go and attain its original position as that unlimited pleasure, it is pushing the mind, pushing the intelligence, pushing the body to go seek that pleasure. And then when the body goes, let's say, to the pub drinking, soul pushes, like, have you come across this experience? Initially your mind will actually act a little crazy to do something, and then you do, same mind will actually accuse you also, you stupid, why did you do that, like that. So the soul pushes us. All the soul knows is, I want pleasure because that's my nature. I'm always happy. I'm not happy here. So it pushes us away from whatever that we like to settle. In this material world, we cannot settle in anything. Could be iPhone. You cannot settle with one single brand. You cannot settle with one single job. It's simply not possible. If somebody says, this job is my passion, I will not leave this job for the rest of my life, they're lying. Nobody likes anything in this world. How long will they like is as long as the soul's quest to see, is this the happiness that, or is this the thing, or is this the arrangement that's going to give me happiness? So it'll allow you to be like that. Once it goes beyond a certain point, when it concludes, this is not going to give me happiness, it starts to rumble again. You start to lose inspiration to actually do anything. You start to, the thing which was attractive to us for so many years doesn't look attractive anymore, things like that. So the soul is actually after spiritual pleasure. So I didn't answer that question. What is the food for the soul? We'll discuss that later. But just like how for this body, we have material things, like as I said, for tongue, sense of taste, there is a food which is material, I can eat. Sense of touch, okay, there is sexual pleasure. Sense of hearing, there's some material music. Okay, sound is material. I don't know if I've done experiments in physics. You can sound has a vibration. I remember in my high school we did one experiment just to say how the sound vibrations actually go. We have a loudspeaker, and just in front of that loudspeaker we would actually have a funnel that will push the sound out through that small hole with full pressure as much as possible. And then you have water actually dripping. Whenever we turn on the speaker, even though the water is not touching this, that sound blast is enough for the water to change its course. It will meander around just there and it will go like that. So you can actually feel that. So sound is also material only. Likewise, you take any kind of sense, like could be sense of seeing. Even a same TV, you will actually go to watch, and after some time, what you will come out, oh, my eyes are so dry, it's so tired, you will sleep. So every source of pleasure that you see in this material world, they are material, which is driven primarily by our material senses, including mind, including intelligence, including the senses. Initially, it's the mind that pushes us to go and watch a movie, which we'll do. As soon as the movie finishes, it's the mind that will start to complain, look at you, you are so tired. Why did you waste it? Like, no, go and take rest, like that. You can never make peace with any of them. Only person you can make peace with is Supreme Lord. We'll come to that later. But basically, to answer your question, the soul is not after this material pleasure, but all the soul can do at this point of time is pushing the body, because we haven't actually trained ourselves how to experience spiritual pleasure yet, which we'll come to later in subsequent classes. Okay, but soul as such, it's a brilliant question. Soul, in its quest to find, to go and reclaim back its original position, it is pushing us to go one to the other. But when it knows this is not the one, it immediately changes the plan. That's why we can't settle with anything, any arrangement in this life permanently. It's not at all possible. Okay. Thank you. Someone else had a question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Biggie, how did we end up here in this material body? Good question. I'll reserve that tomorrow. Not really tomorrow, next Wednesday. It is to do with our karma. I'll come to that. The answer to that question is connected to the concept of karma. First, I'll tell you what karma is, then you will get the answer for this question. But very good question. If I forget to answer this directly, please remind me next week, Biggie. Okay. Are we done for today? Thank you. Shushmita, everyone has a different.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I speaking too fast, too slow? Are you able to understand fully what I spoke? If you have any feedback, feel free to give. Whole point of me speaking here is to make you understand. Okay, so if you don't understand something, I won't feel offended. I'll feel very offended if you sit there pretending to actually understand and not understand it. You understand it. That is, you are wasting your time and wasting my time also. So feel free to ask questions. No question is bad. No question is too basic. In fact, that is how we understand. Like, when you ask a question, 3 people benefit. I'll finish this point, promise. You, because you'll get the answer. Me, because by speaking, I will also go deeper. And others also who are just a secondary audience, they will also benefit. You understand? Asking question is very easy. You know why? You don't need to know the answers. Just throw the question and sit back and relax. For once, how many times you get drilled from interview to your work? Everywhere you go, you always get questioned. Here is one opportunity where you can just throw the question, sit back and relax. No problem. Okay. But that's what's gonna take our discussions, conversations more and more deeper. Okay.